Hi, here's the old Zoom H1 and here's the new Zoom H1 and I'm going to compare them. If you compare the cages at the top over the microphones, you'll see there's a bit more protection on the new one in front of the microphones. The cage is a little bit bigger, so that means that you're going to need a bigger case for the new version. The old case doesn't actually fit this. You can get it in, but it's a very tight squeeze. In comparison to the old H1, the H1n front panel has changed quite a lot, with all the controls now appearing there, so they're easily got at. There's also some more functions available on the front there. The battery requirements have changed from one single AA battery to two AAA batteries. The display has been changed from an orange of the old one, if I just change that one, to a blue of the new one. It's a lot brighter. The control buttons for the N1 have been moved from the side, which is on the old one, to the front on the new one, and there are also some extra features now included with the new H1n. So it's a lot easier to get at the controls and see what you're doing. There are four buttons just below the screen which are very convenient, very easy to get at. First one is an audio button which changes the quality of your audio from MP3 to WAV or whatever quality you want. There's a low cut filter which is really handy to have there. Next door to that is a limiter which didn't appear at all on the old one, and then you can turn auto level on and off on the right hand side button. The one thing about the limiter that I don't like though is, yes, it is a limiter, so if you adjust the volume and you switch the limiter in, you can actually hear it switch in. For one thing, it actually causes just a little bit more hiss, but the only thing is if you do hit a peak, what tends to happen is the peak drops, and then as soon as the peak has dropped and it's been taken down, you get no distortion, but then the volume pumps back up again. So if you're in a situation where you keep hitting peaks, you're going to get pumping like you've got auto levels. There's the same thing on a Tascam DR5, but it works a lot better. If you use a limiter on the DR5, the Tascam one, what happens is the level drops, but it stays down. It doesn't pump up and down like it does on this. So there is a limiter on this, but in my opinion, the limiter is actually slightly limited because it's almost like an auto gain. Both recorders are now recording, so what I've done is I've set the volumes on both at about 60%. To set the volume on the N version, the new version, you have a dial on the front of the panel. For the old version, it's a click stop up and down on the side. So, just to check, this is the sound of the Zoom H1. To check again, this is the sound of the Zoom H2. This is the sound of the Zoom H1. To check again, this is the sound of the Zoom H2. While I like the Zoom H1n very much, if I had the older version, I'm not sure I'd be inclined to go up to the N1 because of those features though. There are things on it I would have liked as well. For instance, the digital reduction at the bottom end is something that's worth considering, because if you want to record anything that's loud like a pop concert, it's still going to distort on this. It just doesn't work. That's one thing. The other thing is when you get down to that digital reduction point, it's about 5.5 on the volume. There's a very slightly more hiss is added into the mix. If you listen carefully on headphones, you can hear it switching in, just like you could on the old one between 36 and 37. So in that respect, it's pretty similar. The limiter, although it's a great thing to have a limiter, it's not a good limiter in my opinion. I much prefer the Tascam DR5 limiter, where once you hit that peak, the volume is crushed down, but it stays down. On this, the volume gets crushed down and then it comes straight back up again. Now, if you've got music or something that's going on where you're hitting peaks continuously, the volume is going to pump up and down, and it does, almost like an auto gain. So I don't like that feature really. One thing I think they should have done with this is they should have put a mono switch on it. The old one didn't have mono, so if you're recording dialogue, for instance, you've got a stereo thing going on. It would have been nice to have just put a mono switch in somewhere to record dialogue in the centre. That would have been nice. I like the larger frame. It's a bit more protection. Still plastic, so if you drop it, it's going to crack. But you're going to need another case because it's slightly wider at the top. So there's a little bit more expense if you want to pack it away. And I just get the feeling that this might be a little bit more fragile. I don't know why, but I just feel that it might crack easier, especially that cage. But it's a nice recorder, same quality as the Zoom H1, the old Zoom H1. Pity about the mono switch, pity about the limiter, but it's a good machine. So if you've already got a Zoom H1, I'd stick with it for now. If you haven't got a Zoom H1, then it's a good one to buy. Cheers for now.